here. Go live here. We are live on the Instagrams. We are live on the TikTok. Recording. We are live on the live. So if you want to confirm that all is good on your side, mademoiselle. What's that? I'm not talking right now, so obviously you can't hear anything, but can you tell me, people on the Instagram, thumbs up, thumbs down, as to if you can hear me? Same thing on TikTok. If somebody wants to give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, I just want to make sure before I start that we're all good and that you guys can hear me. Good on TikTok. How about the Instagram's probably good too then? Yep, perfect. So on the stream, same thing. If I can have somebody to tell yay or nay on the stream, I would appreciate it, or else I'm just going to start. I'll assume that we're all good. As a society, we have become obsessed with making everything gender neutral names, gender neutral pronouns, gender neutral bathrooms. Men are women, women are men. But people fail to realize that there are certain things that are not equal and that will never be equal. And one of these things is the fact that boys need men to teach them how to become good men themselves. This is why on today's podcast, I want to speak about how important fathers are to their sons. This episode of the Nico Lagan Show is brought to you by the Alpha Creator Blueprint. Are you a male content creator on a mission to help other men? Is your content not getting the attention it deserves? Would you like to increase your views by 10, 100, even 1,000 times? If so, head to the alphacreatorblueprint.com and let us show you how we can help you do that. Welcome to the Nico Lagan Show. I am your host, Nico Lagan. And before you get your panties all up in a bunch, let me tell you this. Women cannot teach a boy how to become a man. I'll repeat it again. Women cannot teach boys how to become a man. And this is a simple fact. This is a fucking fact, and it is not sexist in nature. It is just a fact. But we continue lying to ourselves that women can teach boys how to become good men. Yet, as you're going to see today, the statistics are showing that this is not correct. We need to admit it to ourselves that men are needed, that fathers are needed, that women are not better than fathers at raising children, that both of them need to be present, not just one or the other. In the best of scenarios, of course shit happens, but in the best of scenarios, you need both parents. That's for boys and women, but I specifically talk about men. So this is what we're going to be talking about today, and let's get started. Let me hit you with some knowledge. Did you know that there are 73 million children in the US right now? That represents about 20% of the US population. Although there are slightly more boys born every year, we're talking about 6% is different. Let's just assume that everything is equal, that there's as many boys and girls that are born every year. It just makes my statistics a lot easier to share with you guys. But there is a slight difference between the birth of boys compared to women. Now, if there are 73 million children in the US right now, understand that out of 73 million, as per the statistics, just over 16 to 20 millions are growing up without a father. We're talking about more than 10 million children right now, and 10 million boys, are growing up without a father figure, with just a single parent. Now, What's astonishing is when you start looking at the statistics, it shows that from 1970 to 2022, it has doubled. There's twice as many kids being raised in a single home unit where the father is not present. In 1970, we were talking about 8 million kids. Today, we're talking about 20 millions. That's about 27% of children today are raised in a single parent house. Just so you guys know, 81% of single parent are women, while 19% of single parent are men. So there's a 4-to-1 type of ratio when it comes to, or 5-to-1, should I say, when it comes to the amount of children that are being raised by women and being raised by men singly, like just as a one parent. So we're talking about right now more than 8 million boys. So it's some, depending on the statistics, the statistics are a bit all over the place, but it seems that between 8 and 10 million boys right now are growing up without their fathers. You know, a lot of the statistics I'm going to be sharing today are directly, I can directly talk about them on a personal level because I have been through everything we're going to talk about, or at least most of the things we're going to talk about today. I've been through. And this, do I blame the fact that my father wasn't there? Not 100%, obviously, because like anything in life, I own responsibility to this. There's a good part, let's say that 50% of the choices that I made were because of me, but there's a good portion of it, at least 50% of it, that was not because of me. It was an influence that I could not control. And the fact that my father was not there did not fucking help. Let's all fucking agree to this. And I think that everybody on the stream, everybody on Instagram, on TikTok can agree to this, that boys need their fathers, and there are strong consequences when fathers are not present. Some of those consequences are boys that grow up without fathers are more prone to behavioral issues, health and emotional problem. Psychological studies shows that boys growing up without a father are more likely to be aggressive, quicker to anger. They're more likely to be depressed, more prone to low self esteem and obesity, to do poorly in school, to drop out of school. They're more likely to be incarcerated and die by suicide. And they're more likely to live in poverty and use drugs. And some are the things that I want to talk about today. And I will share the statistics with you so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. I want you to know that I want to prove to you that I'm not talking out of my ass here. This is a fucking fact. And let me show you how that is. Poverty. When we look at poverty level, the national average right now in the US when it comes to poverty or children living under poverty is about 8%. It varies between, it was 8% in 2001. Today is 10.9%. So about, let's call it 11%. Kids that are raised by a single mother are 46, have 46, it's 46% of kids living with their mothers that are living at the poverty level, which means you have almost 5 times more chances to be living in poverty if you are raised by a single mother compared to being raised by a family that's a couple. 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless, meaning that you're twice as likely to drop out of school if your father is not present in your life. Boys who grew up without their father have twice as less chances to attend college. So, as you can tell, having a father in the house has a direct indication on the dropout level. We're talking twice as likely to drop out of school if your father is not present, and twice as likely to not attend college if your father is not present. Kids without their fathers are twice as likely to commit suicide. As per the Justice Department, 90% of homeless and runaway kids come from fatherless homes. That is a like 90%, 90% of homelessness and kids that run out from their homes are fatherless. As per Brad Wilcox, the director of the National Marriage Project at the University of Virginia, we see that young men who are growing up without a dad are about 70% more likely to be idle, not working in their mid 20s, compared to young men who are growing up with a father in the household. The Justice Department has stated the most reliable indicator of violent crime in a community is proportional to the fatherless families. So basically, the more fatherless families there are in a community, the more crime is rampant. And that's as per the Justice Department. And let me rephrase what I just said as well, because those statistics are very important, and I want you guys to listen, to hear them. A boy that grows up without a father is 70% more likely to be idle, meaning to sit on his ass and do nothing in his mid 20s, not work, just waste his life away. And you know what they say, that when you have nothing to do, believe me, you'll find something. And normally what you find is not fucking good. Normally, when you don't have anything to occupy your mind, people will find ways to occupy their minds. And chances are it's not going to be positive. 85% of youth in prison come from fatherless households. Young men growing up without a father are 279% more likely to carry a gun and to deal drugs. So basically being part of a gang. As per Dr. Warren Farrell, a scholar and educator on sociological and gender studies, he argues that when boys' testosterone is not well channeled by an involved dad, boys become among the world's most destructive forces. And when boys' testosterone is well channeled by an involved dad, boys are among the world's most constructive forces. What does that mean? Put it in layman's term, this simply means that when a boy is not taught how to channel their aggressive behavior, their testosterone, they are amongst the most destructive forces on the planet. But when a boy is taught to channel his testosterone, to channel his aggressive nature, they are part of the most constructive force. So unlike what you're being told by social media, by the media, by everybody out there that seems to believe that toxic masculinity is a thing, let me be the one to repeat it to you to make sure that you understand this. This is incorrect. What is masculinity is not toxic. What is toxic is when masculinity is not used or channeled properly. This is when it becomes problematic. When boys are left without channels to exert that testosterone, to exert that aggressive nature, this is where problematic happens. And one of the best things that I could do to prove this, and people will argue with me that it's maybe just my experience, but I can tell you that the reason I do what I do today, the reason I do these lives, the reason that I spend all of my time creating content speaking about boy and men issue is that I know for a fact, due to my personal experience, that everything, all the statistics that I just shared with you are 100% accurate, because this is what happened to me. If you look, we'll take my life as an example. My parents got divorced when I was 14 years old. Prior to my parents' divorce, my father was not really present. He was always on the road. He was always working in a different city. So I don't have a lot of I really don't have a lot of memories when it comes to my dad, like almost none when it comes to my childhood. And he just was not present. And I don't know that it had that much of an impact on me when I was young, as in a child, because I grew up in a small community. I grew up in a place where my best friend's father was there. My best friend's father took kind of a father role figure to me. So when I was younger as a child, I don't see the negativity that not having my dad present brought to the statistic that compares to the statistics that I provided, because I did have other men present in my life. Same thing as I was really involved in sports when I was younger as well. So there was other male figure to which I could pay attention to which I could look up to. But when my dad left, I was 14 years old, and I wasn't playing as much sports anymore outside of basketball. I wasn't really involved with my best friend anymore. We grew apart from the guy that I grew up with. So his father was not in my life anymore, and the fact that you don't have a father there to, to watch what you're doing. If we call a spade, look at your past. If you grew up in a family, most families, even today, I think it's 64% of families still have the father and the mother involved in their lives, in the life of their children. And if you look at your past, be honest with yourself. Who was giving the most discipline in your family? Was it your mother? Was it your father? Chances are it was your father. Chances are you were more scared of your father, and your father, at least as a boy, kept you more in check than your mother did. And you know, although my father was not present when I was a child, or when I was a child, absolutely, I still remember being somewhat scared of him. And I think that being scared of your father is not a bad thing. He's not the type of guy that beat me up. He's not the type of guy that abused me. But I fucking knew that there would be consequences to my action if I were to do something. I've been spanked before as a child, and you know what? I don't think it's that bad of a thing. I learned a lot about consequences to my actions. And if you look at today's society, if there's one thing that we lack, especially in boys, is consequences to their actions. They are not looking at look at the keyboard warrior situation that we have, where boys are calling other people name on social media. They're being very belligerent. They're being very disrespectful. They're being actually fucking mean and bullying others over social media platform. And I can tell you why. That's because they don't have any physical consequences to their actions. So I know that as a father, at least as my father, I had a healthy fear of him, and that did keep me in check. But when he left, when my parents got divorced at 14, and my mother, my sister, and myself went to live in a small apartment, it didn't take long before my mother gave up. Like, she could not deal with the amount of energy that I brought to the table. She could not show me how to become a man, or how to channel that testosterone that was running through my body. She could not show me how to funnel that energy that I had into something constructive. So as Dr. Wilcox, or as per Brad Wilcox said earlier, sorry, as per Dr. Warren Farrell said earlier, I turned that testosterone into a destructive force instead of turning it into a positive force. And, you know, my dad left at 14. I It wasn't long after before I started looking for male figures. I didn't realize it at the time. I was just doing something instinctively, but I found an older guy. And when I say older, he wasn't in his 40s or anything, but he was a few years older than me. And I started hanging out with the wrong people. I started consuming drugs. I started to drink. I started to do a lot of stupid shit that unsupervised boys will do when nobody's there to watch them, when nobody's there to put consequences in place for their misbehaviors. And as I said, my mother gave up. But so it's not surprising that by the time I was 15, I dropped out of school. By the time I was 15, I was a drug addict. By the time I was 15, I was already selling drugs. And I cared more about finding older men to teach me the way. And again, I did not do that instinctively. This is something that just happened. But this is just, I'm trying to use my personal experience to let you guys know out there how important it is for a boy to have a strong male figure in his life, because without it, instinctively, he will start looking for influences that can help him learn what it is to be a good man. And I used to be a big rap fan. I still am, actually, but I used to look up to guys like Wu Tang Clan. I used to look up to guys like Nas. I used to look up to guys like Tupac, to Biggie. And those are all guys that come with no education, that comes from absolutely nothing. And all they had was money, women, and beautiful things. So, as a boy that did not have a father figure to tell me that this is incorrect, that this is not the type of stuff that I should be looking for, I should be looking into developing myself as a human being first and then acquire those beautiful things that are associated with those guys. The point of the matter is that I try to duplicate their lifestyle in order to acquire what they had. So, in order to make money, I started selling drugs. In order to get women, I needed money. In order to do all the things that I wanted, I associated all those things with negative behaviors because there was nobody else to teach me. And all of my friends back then thought the same thing as I did. They were all guys that were older than me, but that still lived the exact same lifestyle and that was pushing that on me. I'm not saying that they were forcing me into anything, because believe me, I wanted to be part of this because this is what my idols were doing. So naturally, I was associating a strong male figure with rappers that I saw online. And let me tell you, it was not a good it did not have any type of good consequences, except that today I can share those stories with you and let you know how problematic that actually is. Now, it's one thing to speak about problems, it's one thing to always be pointing fingers at people. One of the one of my biggest problem that I see today is that we're very quick at blaming other people and not offer any type of fucking solution. So let me offer some solutions to the problems that we are seeing right now, because those are facts. The statistics that that I shared with you today are all facts. If you look at when the podcast will come out, I will share all those statistics. I have all the links, all the references to the statistics that I provided to you. But it's not enough to just complain. I want to share some solutions to these problems. What helped me as a young man in order to reach a higher level, in order to become better, to become the man that I am today, the man that's talking to you right now. One of the biggest problem is that we have a lot of divorce. Like 50% of marriages end up in divorce, and in 90% of those cases, the children go to their mother. We have a massive bias in our justice, our family law justice system. At least this is how it's called in North America. But we have a massive bias in our justice system right now that gives the kids 90% of the time to the mother. We have a big bias that we believe that mothers are more important to their kids or to their boys. They're more important than their fathers. And as the statistics that I shared with you today are showing, this is quite incorrect. Both parents are as important as one to the other. And I would argue that a man is more important to a boy than his mother is after a certain age. Like in his teenage years, I would put my hand to the fire to say that boys need their father more than they do their mothers. So this is one thing we need to look at, and this is something that I'm literally working on. I'm trying to see what it is possible to be done to the current justice system in order to change it in a way where the custody is shared between the two parents, and there's not that bias anymore that assumes that mothers are more important. In a situation that you are a single woman, that you are a single parent, that you are a single mother, that you are raising boys without their fathers, first and foremost, don't be vindictive. Don't don't prevent the father of your children, or don't use your children to prevent their fathers from seeing them, because you're pissed off at them. Maybe they did something wrong. I'm not assuming that they did, but all I'm saying, because I've heard that before and it fucking drives me nuts. If you're a single mother and the father wants to be present in the life of their kids, put your fucking quarrel aside. Don't be vindictive. It's only your kids that are gonna be punished at the end. So if the father wants to be present, make sure that you allow him to be present for the sake of their kids. If for some reason that father is not present or does not want to be present, obviously that's a possibility. I'm not saying that you should find a husband, but you need to find a strong role model that your son can use in order to model himself after. You need to find a man to teach him what it is to be a good man. It does not need to be a husband, it does not need to be a boyfriend. It could be anything from an uncle, from a grandfather, from a family friend. You just need to make sure that you find a mentor for your son to be able to model himself after. You need a man to teach him the ropes. This is why I believe in the same train of thoughts. This is exactly why I believe that organizations like the Boy Scouts should be made boy only again. We need some places where boys can be around other boys and older men that can teach them how to behave with other boys and give them access to mentors. So let's bring the Boy Scout back to a boy only organization. Let's kick off these women. There are girls out of there. They have their own organizations where they can be around other girls. But this is one of the things that we can do. Now, one of the things that we also need to consider is the fact that boys are more competitive, boys are more aggressive in nature, and they need an outlet to take that energy out. They need to be able to exert that energy in a constructive manner so that they're not being destructive of themselves, destructive of the people around them. So if you understand this, if you agree with what I'm saying, and you are a single mother, and even if you are in a couple, even if both parents are there, even if you're a father raising his boys, make sure to put him in an activity where he will be able to burn that energy out. Those activities being sports. But the one that I would recommend to any parent out there is to put your son in martial arts. This is what changed my life. Martial art has forged me as a man. Not only did it allow me to burn that energy, and to this day it still does, but it allowed me to find role models, to find people, good, strong role models, because most great martial art instructors out there are phenomenal role models and they want to help their students get better. They are the perfect masculine role model for your son to look up to. And if that was not enough, you are allowing your son to develop discipline, to learn how to control their aggressive nature, to be part of a team, to learn how to be coachable, how to take instruction by somebody that is not their parents. And this are just some of the qualities that martial art can bring to a young man's life. So let me recap this again. We all know that boys need an outlet to exert their energy. So please enroll your kids in martial arts. Make sure that if you're a single mother, that you provide a strong role model for your son to model himself after, and avoid these statistics. Avoid the statistics that I shared today. Make sure that your son is not a victim to those statistics, because it is in your power to do something about it. It is your responsibility to do something about it. It is your fucking duty as a parent to make sure that your boys are being raised in a way that they will become constructive member of society. Think about the type of husbands that you want for your daughters, those are the men that we need to raise, and it is on us to do so. On that note, I want to thank every single one of you for listening to watch the podcast, the people that comment on my stuff. I just want you to know that I'm extremely grateful for every single one of you. And never forget that the world is changed one man at a time, and it takes just one man to change the world. On that note, peace out.